But it's configuration is.
You. Good morning, everyone. I had mentioned to someone, I thought we'd have a thin crowd today with the holiday having been yesterday, but parks advocates don't quit. So we have a full house and a lot of good stuff to cover. Let's get started with our public comment here. We've got several people here to talk to today. Sam Settlemeyer, and then we'll have Robert Bergstein, and then Rachel Hawk. Welcome, Sam.
Okay. My name is Sam Settlemeyer. I work for the Civic Gardens Conservation Programming, so I get to do a lot of work with Cincinnati Park staff organizing conservation work in parks. But today I'm here primarily as a volunteer. I volunteer as a Cincinnati conservation steward with Northside Green Space, on the board there, and also do a lot of work in Mountain Area Forest. And over the last several months, there's been a group of us who've been trying to advocate to City Council for more funding for parks, and specifically for park staffing, so that we can provide more staff for the Conservation and Land Management Division, and trying to better get to a point where we have the appropriate staff to manage the amount of land we have here within Cincinnati parks. As you look at the kind of breakdown of land within the park system, almost 80% of the land owned by Cincinnati Parks is forested, and yet we still have a really incredibly small staff that is dealing with that kind of size of land. You know, currently we only have one full-time staff and a couple of seasonal staffers who are managing more than 3,000 acres of forested land. And so volunteers are advocating not only for more conservation efforts to help our efforts be sustained and those volunteer efforts be continued, but also just for the continual improvement of habitat quality and recreational opportunities within our forested spaces. For the last several years, volunteers have been actively working in a lot of our forested parks. The Cincinnati Conservation Stewards Program, which I think you all have been able to hear a little bit about, but we have volunteers actively working in over 15 different sites across the Cincinnati Park system. And these volunteers are investing thousands of hours of their time. There's been over 17,000 volunteer hours since the program started. And we have continued to see the kind of interest in this volunteerism continue to grow, and more sites wanting to kind of come online and deal with honeysuckle, deal with these other kinds of invasive issues, trail maintenance, make sure that people are aware that trails exist within our
Minutes, sorry.
Yep.
Sorry.
And as we're kind of, getting down to the advocacy, we want to just
Thank
continue to
Sorry.
encourage. All right.
Thank you.
Robert Bergstein, and then Rachel Hawk.
My name is Robert Bergstein. I'm a steward at Burnett Woods and at Avon Woods, helping direct the invasive projects there for the last 5 years officially, but we've been working in my capacity with the Cincinnati Wildflower Preservation Society. We've been working in the Burnett Woods for at least 25 years. Each year we work in the park. We would we didn't have intensive programs. We'd work in the park. Each year we get farther behind. We were never putting enough effort into, there was never enough effort put into specifically Burnett Woods, but all the parks, to get ahead of the game on invasive plants within the parks. I attribute this. The staff, the naturalists all knew that the parks were being invaded for 25 years, knew the parks were being heavily invaded by bed plants. They had no power to ask the board or the park director to do anything about it. I'm asking you today to commit to conservation, preserving natural areas within Burnett Woods and all the parks in Cincinnati, particularly Caldwell Park, California Woods, and the other parks, to restore these two high quality natural areas. It's a very high value, an important value. I've spoken with Jason when he first started with the parks, and I've spoken to all the previous directors for at least the last 4, and had the conversation. You have to tell the board that we need more funding, more staffing to get these problems under control. And once they're under control, the expenses will come down. But you have to do it something. So it's a systemic problem. The park director knows that more needs to be done. The employees all know. Greg Torres, Sam Settlemeyer, everybody and all the naturalists know that more needs to be done. And in fact, so I would like to commit
2 minutes, thank you.
The board to ask Jason to come up with a plan to restore the natural areas within the parks, which would.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you. Great. All right, we've got Rachel Hawk, and after that, Cynthia McCarthy, and then Sydney Barnes. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Rachel Hall, and I'm a conservation steward with the Friends of French Park CPAC. One of the activities our CPAC has done on top of removal is this spring we cataloged all the wildflowers we could find. The results of this ended up being 51 different wildflowers at the park. And the best part about it was this year was instead of finding just one little wildflower, we were able to find groups or large colonies of them. So this has been a result of the work that has been guided by the CLM team and that this conservation work is working. So one of the things today that is happening is French Park is receiving a donation for invasive removal and trail improvement, which the CLM team will be the ones leading that effort. And so I'd like to request more staffing for that CLM effort to help us with more wildflowers and being able to take that donation money and using it appropriately.
Thank you so much. What do you think?
Thank you, Rachel. Cynthia and then Sydney.
We have lost the battle to save Pleasant Valley and Burnett Woods. The widely unpopular, poorly designed assault on the neighbors and 1,246 species of wildlife counted by UC students is now underway. I do hope you're happy. How ironic you chose to celebrate World Environment Day on Facebook on the same day the 150-year-old swale was breached. How embarrassing for you that WCPO broadcast the closure of the lower valley behind Trailside for previously known human E. coli contamination, which will cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to address, while you waste hundreds of thousands of dollars to add concentrations of dog E. coli to the field just above it. The small, ugly, unsafe, unnecessary, non-ADA accessible dog park is becoming a reality, despite the strong and sustained opposition. Any one argument against it should have been enough to pause. Now the last vestige of quiet, uncontaminated green space in Burnett Woods is destroyed. We did everything we could to protect it from you. To commemorate your Pyrrhic victory, I present each of you with a trophy, a be-crowned poof emoji atop a noble Roman column. Let the rainbow colors remind you your crony Prue's construction commenced destruction during Pride Month, when the big yellow machines turned the fresh green valley to gray, replacing truckloads of loamy living soil with rocks and concrete. May you each display this with the great honor it deserves.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Cynthia, please, I don't accept. I don't want your plastic item.
Thank you.
Great. Then Sydney Barnes. Good morning.
Hi, my name is Sydney Barnes. I am president and founder of Mount Airy West Conservation, a member of the Mount Airy Forest CPAC, and a member of the Cincinnati Conservation Program. Since our founding in 2022, and 50 events and thousands of individual volunteer hours, we have made a sizable dent. Right? And all of the native flora has bounced back here. It really is beautiful this year. There's a lot the volunteers can do with this program, right? But for example, I can't spray lipstick on that, right? And it lines all of our trails by like 3 to 4 feet. It's spread by people in their hiking boots. It's spread by their dogs between their toes and deer in their hooves. Okay, we don't get to hit on this. I don't get to enjoy the flowers every year. You don't get to enjoy the flowers every year. So we would just like to ask parks to increase the level of CLM staffing so we can get a better handle on this while the volunteers and staff continue to make our forests and parks better.
Thank you.
Great. I would just like to acknowledge all the volunteers that are doing so much of invasive species in our parks. We have some really special places that have really returned to their natural state because of, well, it is true. I've seen it in Buttercup Valley myself. It's very nice. So that's a vision that we can have for all of our parks, and we appreciate your efforts and your activism. We received some additional public comments via our email box this month, primarily related to Burnett Woods on a variety of topics, and also in Woods Park. The the director and the commissioners received those emails and we welcome them. With that, we can turn over to approval of the May 15th meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Next, we have Jennifer Hafner Spicer and Kathy Crane and Dr. Sean Cotton coming to speak our wellness initiatives in the parks.
Thank you.
Welcome.
For our board chair of the Parks Foundation and Park Board meeting.
Oh,
She survived.
I'm still walking after all these years in this, but I do want to thank you so much for letting us continue this journey of parks and now rec for wellness powered by the Osher Center at UCMC. It's so exciting. You know, I have to smile, and Jason, thank you always the support. You've been listening to me now since you came on board and not always completely understanding the concept because frankly, I didn't have the concept in my brain, just the idea. You always stood by us. Thank you. So long time ago, we came here with a dream and an idea that parks would help to make this the healthiest wellness city in the country. And guess what? It's happening. It took a long time. You can see the activities that currently are occurring in the parks. And when I brought this to you the first time, got to the need. These needs are the exact same needs that we had 4.5 years ago when we first came to the park board, to the hospital system. In fact, they've gotten worse. You can read them yourself, but mental health, physical health, chronic syndromes, chronic diseases, metabolic syndromes are all up in the city of Cincinnati. We have a very large population of children in poverty, of population that does not have insurance or are under Medicaid, dual enroll. That will only get worse over the next year or two as Medicaid is cut. Our hospital systems will have to, particularly our academic hospital systems, will be the ones to bear the brunt of the people coming in who no longer go to primary care, but have to go to the hospital emergency room for their acute situations. So having a program that both the hospital understands and the park system understands, our politicians get, to put these together, to engage so many partners in the city, to allow our residents and patients to be healthier is pretty incredible. And before I get to the timeline, I want to thank the very people in this room because, and I thank all of you, you've let us do it, and we love you for that. But the people who actually have created the structure, gone through complex hospital systems, which frankly, I never knew were so complex until we went through this. But I want to thank Dr. Sean Cotton, who is founder and head of the Osher Center for Integrative Health, only one of 12 in this country. Very important for the hospital in all of their areas. Dr. Barbara Walker, who pretty much single-handedly walked through the hospital system and the legal system to get doctors to be allowed to use our electronic healthcare records. Epic. Thank you for that. It's unbelievable. Dr. Sanjay, emergency room doctor, and also on our advisory board for parks, and also on the advisory board for Osher. Thank you for that. Having Dr. Mindy Hasty, who I don't know through now, also very integrally involved. And lastly, I want to thank Jen Spicer and the Park Board Foundation. I have to tell you that you can have an idea, but if you don't have someone behind you saying, yes, it can be done, and we're going to help you, it doesn't get done. And Jen and her team creating what you will see today, along with Dr. Cotton and Dr. Walker, is unbelievable. And for that, I will ever be thankful. Thank you. So what have we done over the last year? In the fall, we launched the program through branding is linked. We started a Cincinnati Parks for Wellness Advisory Council in collaboration with all the CPACs. Got Epic to let our doctors prescribe nature. We, in early of this year, the CPACs were given funds so that they could do wellness programs in their parks to determine what wellness means to them in their particular park. Very exciting. And in the spring, we also had the official program launch. And you'll see why this is so important, because if you notice the name, Cincinnati Parks and Rec for Wellness, this is incredibly important because this now allows the hospital to give their patients 12 months of the year prescriptions somewhere, whether it's outside or whether it's inside. So it's very exciting partnership. You'll see what we're doing. My God, the partnering programming partners are expanding by leaps and bounds. The parks, Jen and her team has strategically chosen these parks for around the city, particularly those cities that are communities that need better health. We have hiking, we have skating, we have wellness programs. Remind yourselves that the reason this program will work is because it's free. Everyone can go to this, and as Jen will tell you, Metro will get them there if they don't have a way of getting there. We distribute materials. You'll see a fabulous piece of material that's coming out, social media, e-newsletters, in-person events. Each event is getting larger and larger as the community gets to know the program better and better, and as the hospital begins to send more patients through it. The field guide, unbelievable. This makes me happy. I want to use it every time I go into a park. It allows you to know where you're at, why you're there, how you can be safe, what the health benefits are for you. It's a fun way to carry something around. You'll also be able to get it on your smartphone. Just like this.
This is awesome.
Yeah, I know, this is unbelievable.
It's like a passport,
I know.
a parks passport.
And then strategic partners, I'm actually gonna let Jen talk about this, because without these partners, without Jen actually going and talking to each one of these, we would not have the program that we do now. And as Sean will talk a little later, the work that she's done within the hospital, she and Barbara have done within the hospital all the way up to the CEO. I do want to end though with this. We are about to go into a major heat wave. It has been shown by the Trust for Public Lands that those cities with parks within a 10-minute walk, green coverage, reduce the heat level by 6 degrees. These programs are incredibly important. That tree cover will save lives this week. So all of this, what the parks does every day is wellness, is saving lives. So, thank you.
Real brief, Jason, thanks. I mean, really, you have a lot on your plate, and we've come to you with all sorts of great ideas, and you've helped us implement this. We connected to Daniel Betts at Cincinnati Recreation Commission, and we're so honored to work with both Parks and Rec on this program. Brian Tiffany, our board chair, this stuff wouldn't happen if he wasn't advocating for us through our executive committee and our 40 other board members who are directing our resources to initiatives for everyone. So thank you, Brian. I also want to thank they're watching right now. Colleen O'Connor is our community engagement and impact officer, and Jen Buchholz, who together, we put this all together with Dr. Barbara Walker and Sean Cotton and Sanjay, and there's so much more to do. And so like you said, we were addressing what were barriers: access to parks, transportation to parks, meeting individuals where they are. We're also lucky to be walking. Someday maybe we won't be. And so these doctors are prescribing things for patients where even if you can get to a park bench and just take some breathing exercises, that's part of this program. Thank you, Molly, for connecting us to 1 in 5. We're going to be doing suicide prevention and mental health workshops happening at Bettman Nature Center and maybe Trailside Nature Center. So thank you. Finley Market's a big partner. This was published in the Inquirer. Thank you, Patty, because the minute that this was released, we got a lot of calls. And so we think every year we're just going to keep adding, and we were very excited to have Interact for Health come in and support this. In addition, I would be remiss without saying Kathy Crane came to us with this idea 6 years ago. went to the commissioners 4.5 years ago and put out funding as well as Carrie Stevens, the two big sponsors of this program. So hiking is happening and it's going to be happening all year long. And so you've got different individuals that you'll see featured in the field guide, from Emily Buckley from the West Side Parks to Lincoln Ware to Tara Oswald of Sis Girls, who has a huge following, leading these hikes. So 24 weeks of free hikes. We also have roller skating. Of course, Morgan Margot met the challenge. Not only has she started summer day camp programs, but free. You have dance classes on Wednesday, yoga happening, and as well as learn how to roller skate. And we were very happy to have donors help support new roller skates for children at the rink. So leave it to the Rigos. Wellness exercises. Dr. Barbara Walker was just in Alcest Park, and almost 15 people were there on Wednesday in the middle of the day. And their intention is to go to St. Margaret Hall and help provide senior programming. And so Dr. Cotton will tell you more about that. And so, without further ado, here we go.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Is it morning? Yeah, good morning. Thank you.
Morning.
Nice to see everyone again. And thank you to, again, all the team members that have been acknowledged here. We really appreciate. And again, the vision of Kathy really leading the way and saying this is what could happen. So I'll be brief, but I'll just update you from kind of the UC Health perspective. It took us, this is our wonderful CEO, Corey Shaw, that some of you may know. He's fully behind the Nature's Medicine program, really excited about it. It literally took 11 months, no joke, from last time I saw you. That's how long it took to get into what's called our electronic health system, our EPIC system. It's what the doc pushes and sends you to the next doc or sends you to get your lab test or a procedure. It took 11 months, but with the persistence of Dr. Walker and the team, we're now in there. And so we're able to actually report that we have our first 90+ nature referrals from within the health system. I have a team of medical students that I told them I was going to be here by 9 and I needed something to report. And so what they literally just showed me yesterday is the top 3 diagnoses of the people that had been referred, the top 3 kind of referral diagnoses, anxiety, certainly plaguing our community and others, hypertension, not surprising as well, and chronic low back pain. So I hope next time I'll be able to come to and tell you the zip codes and where, but we've at least got some preliminary information. So, and then what Dr. Walker has really done is she's created, she calls them NAM champs, right? NAM champs, 46 of our nature champions across UC Health System. So these are docs from within psychiatry, oncology, neurology, primary care, the Westchester campus, that she has basically engaged so that she's not just the one pushing the button. There's people now all across the system, across our multiple campuses. She then led and again, this was all with Jen's team as well, launched kind of the UC Health internal launch of the program on Earth Day. And we had, I think it was, the email was sent to 12,000 employees, the digital guide, there was a photo contest. Our marketing partner reached out and said, Sean, we've never seen this much of engagement for any program that we've put out. And so people were so excited. They were taking pictures outside, sending them in. So again, it's been incredibly successful launch and we're thrilled to roll it out. And again, with Dr. Walker's leadership and Dr. Shaver Kamani, it's just going to keep going. Again, this you've already seen, but just to let you know, the next step with this is that now that patients are starting to be prescribed, their healthcare provider will start to decide based on need, does the person need this field guide or might they also need a Metro Pass, Finley Market food prescription, may they need the CRC membership? So we're going to pilot that with an initial 200 patients, again, supported by the wonderful support from both Kathy, Carrie, and others, to really try and get increase access for people that need the access to get in. And then I will land just by highlighting a few of these. Again, some of our collaborative programming with OSHA and Parks and Rec is amazing, the hiking series. The Tai Chi and Alcest again just this week. And as many of you probably know, sort of in O'Brienville, St. Margaret, it's called St. Margaret Hall, lives right next to it. So our plan is to go literally here's, I think it's Anwood Park, St. Margaret Hall, and then Alcest Park. Our team's going to go meet kind of their activities coordinator in the next few weeks and kind of get a direct connect so we can get some of the seniors out into the park. Again, a monthly forest bathing in Burnett Woods and well-being walks with Cincinnati Public Library as a partner, Nature's Medicine meetups, forest immersion retreats, both with UC faculty staff. These are just some of the programs, again, really spearheaded by Dr. Walker and our team. So we think it's amazing. We're so thrilled to have your support. Thank you, all of you. We're just looking to expand access and really get people, particularly people with the most health needs, into the spaces that you all protect every day. So thank you.
Yeah.
I'll pass it back to
Oh, just got
Jen
Jen
with
with
some
some
great
quick pictures and then that's it. Okay, yay. Wait, this was just the other day. We popped this in.
Look at that.
Yes. Soon that pavilion will be all fixed up. So thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
I'll pass it on. Years ago, when I came to the commission, I said, obviously, we need better health for our city. But we also need to look at this as a business plan. And this can be, and I've said it for years, Jason's saying, oh my God, not again. This can be the brand that changes who we are as a city, who the parks are as a city, and who the hospital is as a city. And I strongly believe that. I'll continue to say it because I think this is a national model and we've begun it. So thank you. Thank you.
I'll say my quick piece. This is beautiful. This is amazing. I remember when you all first brought it to our attention and really proposed this. I was for it from the jump just because, again, health and wellness is important. But I mean, we do that every day subconsciously in parks. So to really bring this to fruition and actually have this available, I mean, it's literally like a passport. Like, that's incredible. I need more, by the way. I need more.
Love it.
I want to say thank you to Kathy. Thank you to the team, but it takes a leader to make something like this happen. And Kathy came with a vision and she went out and she provided her expertise, her finances, her energy, and it was infectious. It's taken a long time. I appreciate your patience. And I really think that we're onto something great. And I thank you specifically, Kathy, for being the team leader.
You know, all the boards that I've been on, I would say that Cincinnati Parks, like no other nonprofit board, the impact that volunteers, leaders, and donors can make to get things done is far and away from really any other organization. So I know that a lot of people come here and say, park board commissioners, we need you all to fill in the blank. And absolutely, that's our responsibility and role to allocate resources. But it's only one part of the resources that get brought to the parks. And you're making a huge impact with this. Huge. Great. Well, that felt really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
May I, for one more moment, expand? There's just sort of a pervasive theme hearing from the conservation volunteers and then hearing from this at one point in time, this was the first kernel of an idea. Well, think about this, maybe something like this, maybe UC will help. That just seeing that progression over a persistent, you need some stamina to make something like this happen, but you're still young. What do you mean? But just the pervasive good fortune of the system of parks to have people who care about it and donate their time, their resources in a range of spots. Parks means different things to lots of people. Some folks have a much more activation emphasis. Some folks have a much more conservation. That there are volunteers continuously working toward those elements and more. I'm sure the elements I'm not naming is encouraging. Like, this is like, meeting adjourned. This was great. Thanks, everybody. This is a high note. Thank you.
Really is.
Wow.
Great. Jason, are we ready to turn it to you for the planning and design update?
We are indeed. So I'll be talking pretty much the rest of the meeting. The holiday has given many park staffers a inspiration to take a little vacation. So full speed ahead with our planning design team. Several quick updates. We only had one bid for the Lido Park Comfort Station and it came in significantly over the estimate. So we are kind of regrouping to figure out what our best path forward is for that one. The Burnett Woods Dog Park is under construction, as it's been noted. Lots happening. They got all the drainage and water infrastructure installed. They're currently working on the site grading and pouring the curbs around the tree wells, and they're getting ready to pour the entry pad. So that's all moving ahead. This project should be completed by the end of July. got all the flowers in up at Sinton and they're ready to go. When it's our time to plant the flowers, so everything's moving forward real well there. Smale Lot 23, that kickoff meeting will likely be happening in early June, or late June or early July. And at that point, we'll have a timeline, an estimate for that project that we'll be bringing forward to you and making sure we share far and wide for how that project's going to go. The Mount Airy Bike Skills Course, everything's moving forward with that. We have a kickoff meeting with that specifically next Friday with the American Ramp Company and Cora to coordinate next steps. We're still looking like that's going to be a late summer or early fall installation. Mount Airy Everybody's Treehouse, everything's moving forward with that. The delivery order has been issued, and that will be moving forward as well. We expect that project to start in July. Alt Park Playground, another one, getting ready to get kicked off. The equipment's been ordered, and we expect that to be, once we know the delivery date, that's when we'll kind of get the timeline for when that's going to be installed. The California Woods Hydrological Plan, Stantec has been working to, they've got all the data, and now they're digging through the data for the geomorphology. And then we're expecting to get that draft report late June, which will then start to inform how we proceed with some restoration there. Sinton campus plans, we got the 30% plans back, and our team is quickly moving through those and working to kind of review them and come up with our comments. We had a big meeting with that with our whole team earlier this week that went really well. And then the Inwood Park Master Plan, that RFP is mostly put together. We anticipate getting that out sometime in July to bring on board a master planner to help us reimagine Inwood Park. Sawyer Point Playground, the RFP is out for the landscape architect. Owl's Nest, we got $2 million in the city budget that was passed Wednesday towards that project. Our friends at the foundation are hard at work to raise the other $2 million. And we're moving forward. We're waiting on KCF to get us a quote to finish up the construction documents. We have the design documents, but now we need construction documents so we can put that out to bid. And then lastly, the Eden Park Drive steps by Playhouse in the Park. We are currently waiting for an update from the architects on that one, and we expect that to be something that we'll move forward. We'll probably be bringing a donation before you guys to receive the funds, to then hire the company to then do the work. That should be coming before too long. And then we have, as always, lots of maintenance and repair projects happening. Specifically, I just want to highlight the Mount Alms Park sinkholes. Getting completed this week. They've completed the lower one, and they're working on the top one. It might even be done as we speak. So lots of good stuff happening in planning design across the board. Not as many images as usual, but we do have an image of the locations for the Sawyer Point location study. We're going to have the architects look, the landscape architect we choose, look at several of these. We remodeled it a little bit based on some questions we got in the RFP process. And then we also have a layout and design for the Mount Airy Bicycle Skills Course, which includes kind of that trail, that loop trail that's around it. We had some conversations this week about to merge what we're hearing from our great volunteers, but to talk about how we can clear the invasive species around that loop trail. So we'll have good visibility from the course itself and the field out into where that loop trail goes. And that'll be a follow-up project once they're done clearing and creating the trail. And we'll come back in and remove the invasive species to open that up a bit.
Perfect. Great. Questions for Jason?
I'm excited to see Sydney shaking her head yes. Hopefully our friends at Mount Airy West will come over to that side of the park and help us with that as well. I love it.
Questions, commissioners? Jason, you'll be covering your team's
Correct. The finance and IT report is next up.
all right, let's keep going.
Hedda's daughter is competing at a horse riding event down in Lexington. So that was very exciting for her, that family. So the finance group is going great guns with our, since we've grown the team, they are managing our fiscal year and kind of end of the year reporting requirements. It ends on June 30th, and there's all kinds of stuff we have to provide to central or to finance downtown. In the revenue side, Kirby McCloy has been centralizing her revenue tracking, reviewing receivables and ensuring that are relieved when the payment is received. Operational encumbrances and tracking, ongoing identification and process improvements, plus they're developing a system of tracking contract expirations. We have so many various contracts that expire all different times. That's something that sometimes can trip us up. And then in the capital side, Adam on our team has been doing all kinds of great stuff, developing a project tracking by parks project designation and working on updating parks fixed asset inventory, which hadn't been updated in several years. So that's something that, again, downtown has asked us to do, and he's dug into that. The IT side of things, Matthew, our new IT manager, has been reviewing all of our communications to ensure proper billing from city and this communications team. And we've resulted in finding 12 cell phones and 11 other charges for remote access that we didn't necessarily need. These things are billed monthly, and sometimes we don't have the proper review of them. So it's been great to, it's not huge savings, but that's the kind of savings improvement that is great to bring on new team members. He's also transitioned us from the new PDF reader. So we had something called Foxit, and now we're going to Adobe Acrobat. And so we've got to get everybody loaded onto that, which is great. He's continuing to work on the process for implementing Windows 11. So Windows 10 will no longer be supported coming up soon. And so we've got to get about 200 or so of our computers transitioned to Windows 11. And that's a huge project because the city has their own image of it, where it has certain security features and stuff like that. The city layers into that. And so we got to get that. The city's got to get that prepared, and we got to get that loaded on all of our computers. So that'll be coming over the next couple of months. I think that has to be complete by October. And then lastly, he's been coordinating with the city's ETS department to collaborate on upgrading our network at 4 of our parks locations. And these are, we're obviously on the city network. And so once they want to do communications upgrades, we got to then coordinate with them to make sure all of that goes seamlessly here. It's here at admin, the natural resources building, Anderson Pavilion downtown, and the Corona Conservatory. So all that's going really well. For the financial report, the big note is that we transferred $3.5 million from the Fifth Third accounts, or from PNC to the Fifth Third accounts to fund various capital and donations that we've gotten into the 430 budget. And all of that has happened, and we are working hard to clean up some of the accounting in the 430 budget, and had us put our own stamp on streamlining that to make it much more clear and visible. And we're excited to bring all those changes to you in August. So lots of great stuff happening in that team. Every time we meet with Heather, there's all kinds of new and different stuff. It's really fun to see her hit her second year, about halfway through it now, and just hitting her stride as far as really wrapping our arms around everything, and everything just seems to be going super smooth.
Anything worth bringing to our attention on the financial reports, Jason?
Nothing specific. As we, the one thing I would note is that on page 23, you'll note that at the very bottom line, or not the bottom line, the second to last line, that the June of 2021 balance of the Commissioner Fund dollars, the dollars that were kind of it spun off of the endowments, but were sitting in the checking account at PNC, was over $7 million. And then that has been, it was a focus of the commissioners when I joined to kind of spin that balance down and activate those dollars instead of letting them sit there. And so you can see that that's spun down, and now we're sitting at a balance of 2.9 million. So we've made serious progress in activating those dollars, making sure that we're using those endowment funds to make parks better for everybody.
Great. Any questions for Jason on the financial review?
Not a question, it's a encouragement and appreciation for really tempting to get lost in the big projects and the high fives, the headlines, and 11 subscriptions to Foxit Editor may not be an enormous needle mover, but I'm grateful that it got attention paid to it because it wasn't adding any benefit. So I appreciate the unsexy parts as well as the more dramatic pieces. So thank you to everyone on the team. Costs are like fingernails. They have to always kind of be trimmed. I appreciate the review.
What an analogy.
Always the best.
Firm it up. Let's see, HR?
HR. Things moving full speed ahead. We have 171 full-time employees, which is up significantly since I started, when it was more like 154 or so. And some of those positions are folks that we've added, obviously, together as a team, including, while we only have one, to mention what our friends advocating for more investment in conservation. We only have one full-time staff person right now, but we have 3 positions that are open and in the interview process. One of those is a new position that we've added just recently. And so it's the
So
first
what-
one to fill.
What primary activities would those 3 people take on?
So the one is the district crew leader for all of the land management team. And then we have 3 natural resource specialists. So Greg Torres is one, and then we're adding 2 additional ones. What they do is they manage basically all of our forests. And so that's everything from trail maintenance and rerouting trails if need be, or fixing trails up if they have major problems. It is working on all of the invasive species and all the conservation efforts. So, and working with all of the volunteers to help develop the land management plans for all of the various areas. And so when there's a volunteer team, so for instance, Sydney's team at Mount Airy West, there's a land management plan for the area that she's working on. Then the evolution by introducing the Conservation Stewards Program is that Sydney's now trained up to manage that plan. So before, our land managers had to be present for each one of the volunteer activities because they were the one managing that plan. Now we've trained our volunteers to be the project manager. And so, and I've participated in one of Sydney's work crews. She is a great leader. She trains everybody up real quick because you get them out and get them working. And so.
Did you hear there's a job opening?
I love it. I love it. And so they handle all of that. Somebody mentioned today being able to spray for certain things. So they're all trained to spray for various things. And then they go back and they kind of treat these areas after the fact. Just recently, we did, so there's various ways to attack our invasive species. Much of it is by hand, surgical and tactical, but some of it is by contracting out. And so we just recently cleared about 10 to 15 acres at Stanbury Park, where we pushed the invasives back from some of the edges of the forest or some of the more populated areas to try to address some of the camping problems we've been having there and some of the trash collection that's built up. And then we are halfway through a clear out of Inwood Park. And so we're putting to work some of the funds from the sale of the Hollister property to contract with somebody to clear out all the invasives of Inwood Park. We've got about half of it done, and they got pulled to a different project, and then they're going to come back and finish it up in the coming weeks. And so, but then our team will go, A, they'll manage those contracts, they'll check in on them, they'll make sure they understand where they're working, and then B, they'll come back in and they'll treat those areas after the fact. So once you've removed honeysuckle, lots of fun stuff happens, which is that we start to see these wildflowers, and we've done some hikes. We took some council members out on hikes to French Park, and you can see areas where each year the wildflowers come back in greater and greater numbers. But you also see that the lesser celandine and some of the winter creeper and other things start to overtake because now they're getting more sunlight. So you got to come back and treat those, and the honeysuckle will resprout and start to come back. So you got to go back and treat these areas. I believe it's like 5 years that you have to continue to treat them to make sure you kind of push that back. So it's not enough to just clear an area. You then got to go back and continue to take care of it. So that's what this team will be doing, amongst many other things that I'm probably not mentioning.
Well, I think I can speak with confidence that there's broad support on this commission for these initiatives.
Absolutely. And in this chair as well.
Right, right. Terrific.
Great. You can see here, there's lots of good information in Derek's report, but a really fun one is the part-time vacancy overview. As you can see, we've done a really great job of filling all of our part-time positions. Just a testament to Derek's team and how quickly they're getting folks hired. And that's just a huge effort they do every year to hire like 100 part-time folks. And then we have to do it all over again the next year. It's really the lifeblood of the park system is getting all these folks in to help us all summer. One really exciting thing that's happened is that we have 2 part-time positions that do a lot of what we use to fill a lot of different roles. One of them is a municipal worker. A municipal worker is a classification that's moves up it to become a laborer, which is a full-time position. That's mowing lawns, that is collecting trash, picking up litter, edging or weed eating, that kind of thing. And then we've got our Parks and Rec specialist. And that's the position that whether it's being a camp counselor at summer camps, whether it is helping as a horticultural technician and helping with our horticulturists, whether it is working at Crone and working the door there or other things, we use that for all kinds of stuff. But that position was tied to recreation. And so we always had Parks and Rec tech. And so the municipal worker salary has gone up because that is a city position that goes up, but the Parks and Rec specialist has not gone up for several years. It's been stuck at a $10 to $15 range. So just over the last month, it's been a year of work, but we finally got city council to pass creating a new classification that's just park specialists. We basically separated ourselves from recreation. Well, we hire 100 part-time people every year. Recreation hires 200 or 300. They hire a ton of people to run all the rec centers and do all that. So they don't have the funds to increase salaries. But we really needed the help in order to reward some of our longtime part-time folks that have been with us for a long time, but also to help us get folks in that have the proper training and the proper skill set that we need to fill some of these kind of more technical roles. And so we have, for instance, 5 rec specs that work on our land management team, and they help with all of the stuff that I just laid out. So now we've got a new classification that's $17 to $20 an hour. So now we got to be mindful of the budget. It doesn't come with additional funds. So that means we'll have fewer hours and fewer part-time positions potentially, but we'll bring in more skilled people, and we'll be separated from recreation to be able to manage it a little bit more ourselves. So really exciting stuff in the kind of part-time seasonal employees side.
Questions on our topics? Comments? I think we're on to grants then.
We are. My first year here, the commissioners were kind enough to use some of the 430 funding to hire a grant writer. That grant writer has been hard at work. And so we've got several grants to have you guys approve today. First up is a donation from the Cincinnati Parks Foundation for $142,500 for French Park invasive removal and trail improvements. This is from a donor who has just a love of French Park and wanted to really help there. There's a whole area where I believe Crystal can tell the story better, but there's a whole area of the park in one of the corners where the forest is kind of gone, and it's a lot of all invasives. There's not a lot of trees left. There was probably a lot of ash there that came out when the emerald ash borer came through. But it's interesting as we're going on these hikes, you kind of get to that area and then you can kind of see that there's no more tall trees. It's still maybe 15, 20 feet tall, but you can tell that it's different. So we're gonna clear out that whole area. It'll be really interesting to see kind of what we find once we get rid of the invasives and what's left. And then it's gonna be kind of an interesting area for our land management team to attack. What do we make it into? How are we able to, do we want to reforest it? Do we want to do kind of a prairie area? What could that be once we get that removed? So it's gonna be a really fun project, but I can't wait to see what they do with that. $57,000 for the Lytle Park comfort stations. This was an effort to sponsor the benches throughout Lytle Park, and it's produced quite a bit of revenue that we'll be able to use towards the Lytle Park comfort station renovation. Once we figure out how to get that to a more reasonable cost, but that's gonna be an exciting one. $100,000 for the downtown landscaping. In conversations with the Parks Foundation, we found that there was a fund that they had that had this balance in it. And so we're gonna be able to use that to do a whole bunch of downtown landscaping and really fix a bunch of stuff up downtown, which I'm excited about as a downtown resident. And then the Jackson Hill litter cleanup. There's an area of Jackson Hill kind of in the back by where some of the housing is, closer to Christ Hospital, where there are some steps and just an area where it just gets a ton of litter. It's a really unfortunate situation. You brought it to our attention a couple weeks ago or a couple meetings ago, Commissioner Nyer, and the foundation. We worked with the Department of Public Services, who manages one part of that area, and then we manage the other part. And so we worked with them on a 2-phase program. With Forever Green was the company that they got to do that, and just a night and day difference once they cleaned everything up. It took them several weeks, really hard work. It's an incredible sloping hillside, but they got it all cleaned up and spotless. We're adding some new trash cans, some new signage to try to help with that. Unfortunately, this is kind of a reoccurring problem, but it was great to call Jen up and be like, hey, they were gonna go do a litter cleanup with their team, the litter raiders team there. It was just much more than anybody could have expected to do with volunteers. And so I was able to call her up and I was like, hey, we're gonna do this cleanup. She didn't even ask me how much it costs. It's just like, we'll fund that for you. So that's good partnership right there, right? So those are the 4 grants from them. We are also getting a $140,000 grant from the state of Ohio. This was part of the capital program project a couple of years ago. We got this grant, but to sign the grant agreement, we need to formally kind of accept that. And so that's what this is. And that will go towards the design of the renovation of the trail from Sawyer Point. It's the Ohio River Trail, but it goes from Montgomery Inn, where the Oasis Trail will end, and then it goes all the way through Yateman's Cove and Sawyer Point, and then eventually it gets to kind of Smale and behind the stadium by the Red Stadium. This is one of the more dangerous areas in the park. There are 2 rails that have been there. They've been there as long as this trail has been there, which at least dates back to probably 1988 when Sawyer Point was built. And year after year, people, their bikes fall on this. And so we're really excited to prioritize this as a safety issue and get this fixed up. Additionally, we got another state of Ohio grant for biochar facility equipment. This is a $97,000 grant, which we have to match with about $24,000. This is great because, and we'll be digging more into biochar as we get it up off the ground in the coming months, but part of the business plan was to rent certain equipment. And so there would just be an annual cost to rent this equipment year after year. Instead, we're gonna be able to buy this. So there's a front loader and what's called a gravity, I'm gonna mess that up, but like a gravity wagon, which is how you load the biochar into the sacks. So this is equipment that we were going to be renting, and instead we're going to be buying. So really awesome, and we get it for 20%, which is always a great deal. So those are 2 state grants. We have a small one from the city of Cincinnati, and that is our new manager of Explore Nature, Andrew Bernier, and his team applied for some city dollars. So the city Parks Department applying for city dollars. But it's about $4,000, and that is to get school field trips to go out and tour the Civilian Conservation Corps camps at Mount Airy Forest. It's one of the few all African-American CCC camps in Ohio. And so it's a really neat area to kind of learn that history lesson and get kids out there to study that. So really fun. And then lastly, this was really exciting when the city manager announced her budget a couple weeks ago. OKI, which is the Regional Council of Governments, they distribute transportation funding from the Federal Department of Transportation and Federal Transit Commission. They distribute those dollars to a program called, one of the programs is the Transportation Alternatives Grant Program. I used to use this at Red Bike to get grant dollars to buy bicycles and stations. But when the city manager announced the $1 million that's in the capital budget that was just passed Wednesday for the Sawyer Point Yateman's Cove Trail, the Department of Transportation and Engineering at the city called up and said, hey, we've got 2 grant applications that we submit every year. The city gets to submit 2 out of all of the ones, but there's like a limit for each city. They get to submit 2. One of them they had set to go. The other one was going to be for the Mill Creek Trail, which is several years off. So they were trying to get ahead of it, but they're like, hey, your trail seems like it's much quicker to go. You're probably going to need more than $1 million. So what if we move that over and did that grant application for that? Awesome work. Kara on our team, Kara Shermer, worked with the city's Department of Transportation Engineering. And in about 8 or 9 days, business days, they put together a whole grant, got it in and submitted. And I think it's going to score really well because, as we've talked about, the safety issue down there is dramatic. And it doesn't hurt that OKI is right across the street from Sawyer Point. So it is a trail they're probably very familiar with. So we're hoping it scores very well. But just a ton of great news and really shows kind of your guys' foresight to encourage us to invest in a grant writer. And what's that yielding is that we're bringing a lot of dollars to play with our partners at the foundation and with others across the state to just do awesome stuff.
Outstanding. This is a big month. $550,000. It's all together.
Yeah.
Grant acceptance.
Big stuff.
Wonderful. And really on point with the invasive removal that we've been talking about today. Terrific. Comments? Question?
We do need to vote to accept these.
Right. Yep.
May I move to accept with enormous gratitude? Do we do these individually or?
I think we can do them all together unless there's dissent.
We have the recommendation here, which outlines the amounts of the collective grants from the Parks Foundation, from the state of Ohio, and from the city of Cincinnati.
Yep.
Move approval as outlined?
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Jason, I was thinking as we were looking at this, about, you're right, we've pushed for several years to get the grant writer approved. And I had no doubt, we had no doubt that there are funds available to do the important work that we're doing. It makes sense that grants are available for it. I think it would be really valuable at some point this year for the board to see the grants for which we have applied, those that we have been successful and those that we have not, and maybe our targets upcoming for the next amount of time. You know, I think it's important for us to really understand when we advocate for the resources and we get them, we actually can make a significant impact. So this is outstanding. The $1 million grant that we are applying for from OKI, do you have any insights on that? Is there anything that we can do to support?
There's a scoring metric so when you submit, you're like, we think we qualify for this many points. Some of them have, it's like up 1 to 10, right? And so we will say, we think we get a 10 out of this, and then they'll go through and score them. A lot of times it's just a checkbox. You either do fit that category or don't fit that category. We think we're going to score really well for that, but it's all data driven. And so they make it a very not lobbyable process. So while I hope that they're excited about ours and think favorably about it when they score it, but it's just purely on the metrics. But one of the good things about how they do this, and it was certainly a surprise to me when I was at Red Bike, is that mostly when I was at Red Bike and you go out to find some people like to fund new things. I want to fund the expansion of this, the growth of that, and bikes break. But OKI gives a lot of points for fixing existing assets because they're in the business of roads and bridges and things that exist. And so they're not necessarily in the business of creating new things all the time. And so the fact that this is an existing trail that has serious safety concerns are going to be things that I think it's going to score really well on. I believe the preliminary scores come out in September and then they're approved officially in October. So
Great.
very hopeful that we'll do well on it.
Heavily used not just for recreation, but for commerce, right?
Absolutely. Well, and one of the things
Back.
One of the things is we were looking at it and realizing that it wasn't going to be able to be done for $1 million was that the initial estimate was to just replace that trail with like 3 inches of asphalt. But that's a trail that we drive cars on, we drive vehicles on to load in for events like Pride or Oktoberfest or the upcoming River Roots, Black Family Reunion, lots of stuff that happens there. We drive vehicles on there. And so we weren't going to be able to get away with that. It would break one right away. So instead, we're going to now replace it with like 8 inches of concrete. And so it'll be a much more firm and sturdy road that'll last for a long time. But it's going to cost a little more.
Take some more to director's comments. Commissioner?
I was just going to call out, it's not the biggest dollars, but the Jackson Hill is exciting, and I don't mean to keep beating that drum, but it is. I appreciate the responsiveness of the foundation to come forward with that, and there's a portion of that that's managed by public services, you said?
Correct. So
I
we own the upper piece of it, and then the lower piece of it, it's actually owned by Department of Transportation Engineering, but Public Services handles that for other, handles the cleanup for that.
But we've been able to, to the average citizen walking through it probably looks all like a park.
Correct. It's all trees and there's a road at the bottom of that kind of dead ends there. And then there's a giant wall, retaining wall. There are steps to go up it. About halfway up, we take control of it.
But when the second phase of that is completed, it will all look
It's all
fairly.
Yeah. If you go over there now, it's all cleaned up. Well, it was 2 weeks ago.
Right, but that should, I never understood that there was a separation there, and I appreciate the initiative to make, because the whole thing is gonna read to a citizen like a park saying, well, that's public services fault is not the right answer to the public. So I appreciate the comprehensive approach to that.
It's such a difficult area because it's hard to get in there and clean up because it's on such an extreme hillside. And so once litter starts to build up, people treat things the way they see others treating them sometimes. And so I think there's a little bit of a steamrolling effect, and we're hoping that having cleaned it up, some new signage and then a couple of new trash cans, we're hoping that that starts to discourage that a little bit.
Well, the obliterators are wonderful and enormously capable, but there are some things that aren't, so to not wear out our volunteers where we can avoid doing so is terrific.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Sorry to dive deep on that.
Great.
Good one. So
Well, keep talking. We're on to you.
exactly, to
Yeah.
continue the theme, which is me talking. So as always, lots of great stuff happening in parks. As you'll note, the Enquirer, among others, she left, but the Enquirer had a great story about it. But Parks was once again a top 10. Cincinnati was once again named a top 10 city for parks. This isn't just our park system, it's all of the green space and access to parks and park-like stuff throughout the city. So it includes schoolyards, it includes CRC properties, it includes the Hillside Trust. And this year, they changed the metrics where they also include cemeteries that are publicly accessible. Cemeteries are great areas with trees, natural areas that folks can get there and enjoy all of the stuff that Kathy was talking about the benefits of being in nature. And so that really helped us as an older city. We've got a lot of cemeteries that are publicly accessible in the city. So that gave us a lot more. We moved up that 91% of Cincinnati citizens live within a 10-minute walk of a Cincinnati park. Just awesome stuff. We also ranked really high on amenities. This is that deferred maintenance that we got to deal with, but we've made a lot of investments historically throughout our community. So we just scored really well, and we ended up being a top 4 this year. We always stress that we want to be just top 10. While the ranking's great, one year we moved down, even though our investment went up, but it was because other cities' investment went up by more. And so there's going to be some malleability in this, and we're going to go up and down. But for us, the important thing is kind of continuously improving, right? So these are metrics that we can grade ourselves again, and we can continue to make sure we're thinking about them and we're investing in them to try to provide what citizens need, what citizens want. So really excited about it. And the thing I always stress is that this isn't something we did this year, right? The reason we have so many parklands, the reason we have so many assets and so many amenities is because of what Park Board of Commissioners have been doing for generations, right? And we all are part of that legacy that Cincinnati cares about green space. Cincinnati cares about parkland and having access to green space. And now it's our responsibility to take care of it. But for the most part, this is stuff that's generations in the making. It's kind of part of Cincinnati's DNA. So really exciting stuff. International Friendship Park, we reopened that since our last meeting. Really awesome event. You can see there us cutting the ribbon there. The vice mayor joined us to reopen it. Just looks outstanding. In fact, it's kind of difficult to tell sometimes where the new stuff is compared to the old stuff. It just seamlessly blends together. All the trees are in the ground. All the flowers are coming out, looking beautiful. So it's just, and that's part of that 2 miles of trail that the Yateman's Cove Sawyer Point Trail is part of. But you go from Paycor Stadium at the one end of Smale Park all the way to the end of International Friendship Park, and you have 2 miles of riverfront trail. It's just absolutely beautiful. So I was excited to bring that back together. Big thank you to our friends at Waterworks who paid for that project, and that just went great. Our friends at the Sister City Council were all there celebrating. You can see all the flags from our various sister cities in the background there. The city budget passed on Wednesday, as I mentioned. We absorbed about a 2% cut from the general fund, as all city departments did, but there were no major cuts, and we were able to do that without affecting our service. And then on the capital side, we've mentioned a couple things, but we got really good funding from the city and from council. Big thank you to the mayor and city council and the city manager. But projects like I mentioned, Owl's Nest Park for $2 million, Glenway Park for $350,000, McAvoy Park got some funding to start planning the renovation of McAvoy Park. Gibson House roof got $250,000 to fix that roof and keep that beautiful old building looking great. Got a little bit of money for studying the engineering needs of Crone Conservatory. And then of course, I just mentioned getting the money for the trail through Yateman, Sawyer Point, Yateman's Field. So just lots of great stuff. Really exciting. Lots of events. There's always lots going on in the city. This Sunday at 7:45, the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra is going to play at Ezra Charles Park, which will be awesome. Pride is coming to Sawyer Point, Yateman's Cove, Saturday, June 28th. Once again, we'll be walking in the parade with our friends at the foundation. And the Pride Parade Committee has been hard at work. They had this whole room tore up with banners and with new things. They've got to make our float. They've got a whole, I can't wait to see this cutout wood skyline. It's just beautiful. And then Kate and I had to be like, you guys have to have it clean by Friday. It's a holiday on Thursday. But it's just really exciting. It's going to be great. Crone Conservatory is hosting Pride Disco 2 days or a day before. That's going to be Friday the 27th. Adults only event includes drinks, food, and of course dancing. That's going to be Friday, June 27th. And then we got a big 4th of July weekend in parks on July 3rd, Thursday, July 3rd at Inwood Park. Is All-American Block Party, games, treats, fireworks. Alt Park Fireworks on Friday, July 4th. Fun starts at 11 a.m. with the children's parade. Music, food, drinks starts at 6 and go until 9, and then the fireworks. Last year, when we worked with the community to bring that back, it rained on us a little bit, but fireworks go off in the rain. And so we stood there and rained in your eyes as you look up and kind of marvel at the fireworks, which is a fun experience. And then Saturday, July 25th or July 5th, the All-American Birthday Bash at Sawyer Point. Car show, classic car show, live bands, food, drinks, and fireworks. Which could be another 3 straight days of fireworks and fun stuff in parks. And then the last thing I'll mention, and Kathy mentioned it earlier, but we're going to have 3 or 4 really, really hot days in the coming days. So I just want to encourage everybody listening at home to stay safe or be cool, find some shade in a park, and get through it together. So thank you.
Commissioners.
I've been able all throughout, so you don't listen anymore.
Same. We next meet on July 17th. Again, I just want to thank Kathy, Dr. Cotton, Jennifer for coming and enlightening us with all the terrific work you're doing in the parks. And thanks as always to the parks team who are just making our parks beautiful. And of course to our volunteers who are doing all the necessary work that needs to be done. So thank you. With that, I will adjourn the meeting.
That is a real record, right?
An hour and 9 minutes. We couldn't get to do what he said, agree from